what about prevention and how can we guide people? I mean, there's only one Donnie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that you're training a lot of doctors and practitioners, but there are so many people that need your help.
Yeah.
So with your Natura product line, are there certain supplements that people should be on just for prevention or?
Yeah, I mean, my last book, of course, Adaptogens and Medical Herbalism, is really a book that I think is about prevention as well as the usage of a lot of what I call foundational medicines that can also be useful as we age to look at the common threads of chronic disease and how do we, again, bolster our health to then help us not get those common underlying causes to those disease, addressing some of the underlying, whether it be oxidative stress, inflammation, a increase in catabolic state of health as opposed to anabolic state, strengthening the endocrine system, strengthening the nervous system, strengthening the various organ systems of the body are just a common theme that generally everybody should be doing to, again, have a better state of health, a more optimal state of wellness. The word wellness comes from the ancient English word hal, H-A-L. It's the same root word, so the same root word for wellness is the same root word for whole and is also the same root word for holy. So I often say to be well means to be whole and to be holy. So, my system of medicine is a wellness system. So it's not really about treating disease. It's about wellness, promoting an optimal state of wellness, because that's what's going to, again, give you a long and high quality life. And so the formulas that I do, like in my book, I'm normally picking out an adaptogenic formula for someone, Vital Adapt or Power Adapt. That's kind of foundational. Now we have Nutra-One, which is a organic kind of food-grown multivitamin, multimineral designed by me to offer a lot higher amounts of nutrients that people tend to be deficient in, say like zinc, magnesium, iodine, vitamin D, all derived from what we call a naturized source. In other words, it's not, natural or synthetic vitamins. It's actually nature-derived ones. So they're actually, what that means is that a living organism like Saccharomyces cerevisiae, the oldest organism on the earth, is actually taken, it's a yeast, it's fed nutrients, it grows, it matures, and when the maturity of that organism reaches a state that the nutrients are high enough, you're actually you're not removing the nutrients, you're taking the whole matrix and consuming the matrix,
the
living
that.
matrix.
Consuming the matrix, that's great.
Yeah.
So Nutra-One.
So that's a multivitamin, multimineral with all of organic fruits and vegetables in it as well. So it's like a super green, super fruit, and multivitamin, multimineral all in one.
So everybody would benefit from being on Nutra-One. You don't have to go to a doctor
from
for that.
Nutra-One and Vital Adapt or Power Adapt. So those are usually at least the two starters I do. And a lot of times, typically mixed with Nutra-One, I then use Beyond Whey, which is a non-denatured raw whey protein combined with colostrum, organic colostrum, with 2 amino acids, both chelates of what's called creatine and glutamine, that offer a lot of immunological benefits and also anabolic benefits. So going back to some of the aspects of a big part of my program is to build the essence, and part of that essence is accentuate anabolic health. If you look at every illness, osteoporosis, arthritis, heart disease, and then you just look at people when they're older, they're very weak and frail, right?
Right.
There's even a condition now, or a disease now, called frailty syndrome, which is when people get older, they may not have heart disease or cancer, but they're so frail, they're not thriving anymore. So they've given a name to people like that. It's called frailty syndrome. So that doesn't just happen when you're 80 or 90. That starts happening at 25 or 30. So anabolic restoration, again, with botanicals and nutrients, is a central part to how we keep healthy, how our bodies regenerate as it's breaking down. And there's 3 types of nourishments that the body must have. Do you know what they are?
No, I don't.
So one is celestial.
Right.
So celestial energy or nourishment is breathing, is oxygenating the cells of our body, which come through our lungs and how we expand. So we all need to learn to breathe deeply and intently, and that's very healthy and good for us. People do qigong breathing, yoga breathing, meditative breathing. I'm a big proponent of swimming and swimming underwater, which really expands the lungs and helps. Singing is very good for, oxygenating the tissue. And then there's herbs that actually help oxygenate chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, which and carotenoids and chlorophyll are both oxygenating to the tissue. So then celestial, we have earthly nourishment. And that's how we extrapolate energy from the food we eat, and how we then also take the food we eat, and when we are making energy, it's a catabolic process, using fats, sugars, breaking them down into energy. And then the anabolic process is the building blocks of the food we take in and how it builds every cell of our body. That's called earthly nourishment. And then there is heavenly nourishment, which is all spiritual. It's all about how much joy, how much love, forgiveness, all of those great, how much hope we have, rather than being pessimistic and being angry, or being often melancholic, overly melancholic, and not being able to forgive and things of that nature. Being stuck in a lot of those patterns that we often are in are damaging to our heavenly nourishment. So those are the three types of nourishment, and we must do all that we can to do that.
I want to go back to the spirit, but before we do, just the basic kind of products that will help to sustain us. It's the Neutral One, which is just and the Beyond Whey for a protein, and then Vital or Power Adapt.
Yeah.
Depending on how would people even know?
Vital Adapt is a really good overall nourishing formula. It's 50% primary adaptogens, but then a lot of supportive herbs that are offering, I think, a little bit more of a cooling, nourishing quality. Those would be things like the elderberries, the rose hips, green tea, turmeric, grapeseed. So it's very full and balanced of a formula. So if someone doesn't know, it's non-specific. Okay. Power Adapt is all primary adaptogens. It's warming, it's more energizing, better for building, your energy specifically. So it's quite a bit stronger than Vital Adapt.
Can you take both at the same?
You can take both. You could typically, when people take both, I do Power Adapt AM, Vital Adapt PM. Okay. Often I do Power Adapt fall and winter, Vital Adapt summertime, because again, it's more neutral and more cooling. People that tend to be type A or run hot, I do Vital Adapt. People that are neutral or run a little cold, I do Power Adapt.
Now, would you throw into that mix also the botanical treasures? Because our environment has a lot of stressors, and between the computers and the environmental toxins.
So the two general formulas or the three, I should say, the three formulas that are really about reprogramming our cells, helping our body cellularly, molecularly detoxify from environmental exposure, and reprogramming all of the epigenetic factors that contribute to the onset of disease, whether it be histones or improving what's called AMPK, all these factors that with aging are happening that also contribute to disease. Those formulas would be Botanical Treasure, Cell Guardian, and CV Rescue. So those kind of go into the next layer of things that people can take, particularly thinking about protection.
And they're kind of basic too. I mean, it would be a good thing to take them.
Yeah.
Right?
Those are all about protection.
Across the board.
Cellular detoxification. And then from a standpoint of endocrine health, we move into then would be Botanibol, Night Gain, and Menobreeze. So those offer, and then Serenoa. So for male health, we're normally looking at Serenoa, Botanibol, Night Gain, all bolstering anabolic metabolism, making us stronger. How do we make us stronger? And knowing that we're under lots of stress, we're also aging. So how do and how do we maintain a more youthful state of our restorative ability? So those are what those are for. They feed the essence. The essence is kind of the reservoir of endocrine energy. So when we look at everything aspect that has to do with our endocrine system, whether it be our hypothalamus, our pituitary, our adrenal gland, our reproductive hormones, our pancreas making insulin, our pineal gland, making melatonin, all of the factors that are attributable to hormones in our body all go into this big tank or reservoir called the essence. And so rather than keep thinking things are broken from the outside and having to piecemeal things together, which is the way modern medicine does things now, I'd say let's just feed and nourish the tank and allow the body still to dictate what happens. And so the Menobreeze feeds the yin essence, which is inward, which is about moistening. It's more feminine. It's about flexibility, elasticity in the body, things of that nature. That's all fed through Menobreeze. Botanibol, and then more so even Night Gain, feed the kidney yang aspect, which is, testosterone, it's male, it's strength, it's all of those things. And so
that balancing act.
It's balancing. And as we age, we kind of need more of each of those often. People, to again be feeling, strong, often need nourishment across the board. But some people are more obviously deficient in others than others. And so as people age, those are the different formulas that we kind of
That's good to cover that. Except there's one, the Beyond Essential Fats also.
Yeah, Beyond Essential Fats is another kind of like basic formula to do that provides people with more than just the essential fatty acids like EPA, DHA, which are involved in, again, reducing risk factors in heart disease and cancer and arthritis and neurological health. But it also provides a lot of nutrient-dense compounds within the fat, like sea buckthorn oil, which contains an array of carotenoids, tocotrienols, tocopherols. And so that covers all, the lipid aspect of health, the beyond essential fats.
Are the muscles in that one? Where's the green-lipped muscles?
The green-lipped muscles is in JTL Mobility.
I mean, because you don't just even deal with plants, you're dealing with sea creatures that are
Well, my
helping us
background,
heal.
again, remember, I'm a clinical nutritionist and an herbalist or master herbalist. So I'm unique in the way that I know herbal medicine very well and nutritional medicine. And again, I always tell people they're like the dynamic duo, because you can take all the right herbs in the world, but if you're zinc deficient, your immune system's still not going to operate well. Or you can take nutrients that are all wonderful and supportive to anabolic metabolism, like those amino acids we talk, but if you don't set the person up hormonally right with good signaling and their resistance, they have resistance in all their hormones, you're still not going to get people well. But if you can figure out the right nutrients and overlap them with herbs together, I say, wow, the
It's
magic
amazing.
really happens when those two are
But this is the
together.
question I hear. Okay, you're busy, you're booked, you have a huge client base, you're researching, you're at Ohio State University. Thank God there are some doctors you're bringing on board, but where do people start? Really, where should they go if they want your treatment?
Well, the part of the mission of Madiri is education. So one of my visions, if God willing we raise funds, is to create a school. We have the means. I have enough that I've put together to easily create what I call a 2 to 3 year online school.
Oh, wow.
People can come and study with me a week, in 3 different sessions now, and learn. And then we have ongoing education in that I do a monthly hold a tumor board meeting.
Wow.
We have a chat line of all the people that have studied. So we have, I think, about 30 to 40 really well-trained practitioners around the country. And then we have maybe another 30, 40, 50 that are partially trained, that are, but I think we can do a lot better. So it is our mission of Madiri to expand upon that. And then we have practitioners joining the practice here as well that I think are, again, that I'm working very intimately, so they even get even closer care with by choosing to come to Madiri. And so I'm excited about, the what we have going right now in the foundation to do that. But I think it's an ongoing problem because, again, even with all the intelligence, I actually operate from my heart. And going back, I'm a musician, so I'm very much work like a jazz musician in that I'm able to listen simultaneously to lots of things at the same time.
Right.
You can listen to the person you're talking to, you can listen to your own self inwardly, and you can access your intellect in all of those ways, and then it all kind of harmonizes together and it flows out. It flows out in an artistly way, and it's it's natural and intuitive for me. And so for some people that really can grasp all the science, they keep thinking that this comes together like a mathematical equation. If I analytically do all this, then I'll know what to give a patient. And then the people that really have great intuition, they can't grasp all the intelligence, the science stuff. And so that's the complexity, is to be able to kind of really have that left and right brain really engage together. And I'm working, again, more and more to make people aware of the importance of both, because I always say you're not going to know how to get anything right until you're aware. So awareness is always the first step. Then the desire. I said, all right, well, I'm never going to get the science. I said, don't say never. I said, it's not natural to me. I said, I'm improvising is natural to me. So grasping all this science stuff, I have to work every single day.
But you seem to have a photographic map. You really have.
I work so hard. That's what I said. It's like I work so hard at what I do.
In talking about cancer, and I know this is a new area you're talking about, can you talk about the nervous system, stress, how it relates to cancer, what we need to be aware of?
In the last year, I've lectured around the country specifically on the explosion of data that's come out in the last few years linking the nervous system with not so much the onset of cancer, but really the progression of cancer and the reoccurrence of cancer. And so there's this direct link. Matter of fact, I would go as far as to say that it's the biggest breakthrough in the history of cancer of all, and it was discovered accidentally in that people taking beta blockers that had cancer were showing far less reoccurrence rate than people not taking them.
Wow.
Yeah, and they've linked it to having nothing to do with the cardiovascular reasons for taking beta blockers and lowering blood pressure. But really, the old beta blockers in particular, the ones that are more directed at specifically downregulating what's called the beta-adrenergic 2 receptor, which is this receptor that's all over the body and on the vascular system. And it is when we're more sympathetic, basically when we're in a more heightened state of stress, that receptor is then stimulated. And that leads to constriction of blood vessels, and that's why beta blockers are used to lower blood pressure, specifically by kind of shunting the sympathetic tone away from that. And what we're learning is that cancer cells have an abundance of these receptors. All cancer cells do. So as soon as you're more sympathetic, then all of a sudden the cancer cells are just, wow, this is great. This is fueling everything. And they go out and they signal all of the other factors that are proliferative to the cancer. And this is across the board. This is breast cancer, hormone positive, triple negative breast cancer, HER2 breast cancer, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, leukemia, you name it, colon cancer, that this research is exploding in. And so with all of the trillions of dollars and years being spent on all of these targeted agents for cancer, probably the single most effective way to, again, slow down the growth or inhibit reoccurrence of cancer is mindfulness. Basically,
who knew? I mean, that's unbelievable.
Getting your body to be more parasympathetic. And we're living in a world that is becoming more and more addictive to adrenaline and stimulation, so much so that we're probably not even sensitive anymore to that imbalance compared to traditional people, how they lived. I mean, everything's like this, technology and fast. Matter of fact, the journal Scientific American recently had an article called The Changing Adolescent Brain, and how our brains are changing to be more and more rapid firing like a computer, and now the brain no longer has an ability to wander, to ponder, to imagine. And Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. We have much less of a relationship with nature, with each other, and with our Creator, because the cosmic God, as we know it, is kind of like the mystery of God, and we only can know that through silence, through the whisper that comes through in silence. Nature, of course, we have to be with. We have to go out and be with nature, and then we have to be with each other in a more intimate and more close way. And people are more interested in often being on the gadget than being present or attentive to people maybe sitting down having a meal with them right at the table. So I think, when we study, again, where is health the best in the world, none of those areas are technologically advanced. Sardinia, Icaria, Okinawa, all of these pockets around the world, people are still living fairly simple. They're having meals together. They're eating from the earth. They're celebrating life. They're celebrating aging, the wisdom of our elders. And yet we keep thinking that we're in a hurry to get somewhere, but we're really not. Now, back to the nervous system in my lectures, and now the other thing we're learning is a lot of the traditional herbs used to support the nervous system are great at also inhibiting cancer. So my talk has been on looking at and exploring herbs like lavender. You would never think lavender. Wonderful. Kava, St. John's wort, the sacred plant St. John's wort, Poriococcus, magnolia, ziziphus seed, skullcap, passion flower, all of these plants that have traditionally been used to kind of taper the sympathetic nervous system, and Rauwolfia. Rauwolfia is shown to be inhibitory to ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, potentiate chemotherapy, and it's probably the strongest herb in the world for quenching the sympathetic nervous system.
So instead of a beta blocker, you have a product called Tranquility. Is that something you would recommend, or is
I
it
use
more?
Tranquility, and then the one with Rauwolfia is the cardiotonic, actually. But then also meditative practices, getting people aware. Again, awareness is always the first step, and then the desire. So you actually petition. Once you're aware, then you have to petition. You have to say, I actually desire to change my behavioral patterns, because it's very difficult.
Well, it's prayer.
It's very difficult. It's getting attuned with your spirit and not your emotional self. It's moving beyond the emotional patterns that are ever prevalent in how we live our lives, and getting to even a deeper place, another layer. And it's sort of the beauty of growth and life, is to get to those layers.
Well, you do it. People say body, mind, spirit. You say spirit, mind, body.
Right.
So what do you feel the soul's role is even in illness or in life? I mean, we're not that in touch with our souls, or many of us aren't, because we're running, and you need quiet to be able to get in touch.
Yeah, well, I often say that we're not, the embracement of medicine and ETMS and Radiri is not survival tactics. That's not the role that we play. I do feel that somewhere with the relationship with plants and with my relationship with people, and also the growth that people have by embarking on a healthier way of living, ultimately brings us closer to the source of our spirit, of our soul, which is basically a source of love. It's an ocean of love, and getting to that place where we can have that, abundance of gratitude, kindness, loving kindness, and even in the wake of suffering, still have that, be ever present, and I think that everything is an opportunity, to actually experience that, and then get a little taste of possibly drawing heaven to earth, because that's the ultimate goal.
Right.
Is to what is if you were to say, how do I imagine heaven? I definitely imagine nature to be a part of heaven.
Yeah.
It's too beautiful not to be.
It's magnificent.
And so everything. So by choosing to have an intimate relationship with plants, by actually ingesting them, to me is very spiritual. and more so than it is physical. So for my personal reasons are even grander than the fact that, yes, I think we can get this issue resolved with this or that, but it's also, hey, the plants are actually living inside you, conveying information to your genes, and it's very, very beautiful. And when I go back to the first book I read, Back to Eden, well, again, that book is about crude herbal medicine, but just the title, Back to Eden, just the sense that, there is a whole pharmacy out there, and modern medicine looks at that pharmacy every day, but to manipulate it and isolate it for the good of their ego.
Exactly, and that's
not to respect it. So the same people that would say that, oh, herbs don't do anything, well, why is 65 to 70% of all chemo drugs from plants? Why would that be? And you say herbs don't do anything.
And most practitioners, doctors don't even realize that it actually comes from Mother Nature.
Yeah.
So it's every thought we think, what we put in our body, the moments we take, all of this kind of comes together for our relationship with our soul.
That's
which
what
we
think.
all have one.
Yeah.
And it's actually really wonderful to become acquainted with it.
It is.
It's pretty incredible.
And not to be ever afraid.